Hey guys, it's Shay. Today I am back with another video. I've been working on this video for a few weeks now, so I'm pretty excited to do this and to be able to help other people that are going through chemotherapy. So this is going to be a video on how to survive chemotherapy. So it's all my tips and tricks of how I dealt with the side effects that I got from chemo. This doesn't just have to be for Hodgkin's or even lymphoma patients. This could go to anyone who's going through chemotherapy. So I'm really hoping that this video can help a lot of people. So if you want to follow me on my cancer journey, always feel free to subscribe to my channel. So I broke this video down. It's probably going to be a little bit longer of a video because I have like 3 to 4 pages of notes. So just bear with me. If you're not experiencing a certain side effect, feel free to skip forward or fast forward, but I basically broke it down into different sections of side effects or different areas that I just want to talk about in general. So my main side effect was my digestive system took quite a bit of a hit. I got ulcers. That was the main thing, and they were very difficult to deal with. So starting in the mouth, I had ulcers. And my first tip is to get magic mouthwash. You may want to try and get this before you even start chemotherapy because most people do get ulcers, and this mouthwash is amazing. It has, I think, 4 different types of medication in it. One of them will actually kind of numb your mouth to allow you to eat or drink, and then there's other medications that actually start to speed the process of healing your ulcers up. So I highly recommend getting that. Talk to your doctor about that before you start chemotherapy and try to get your hands on it. My next tip is to drink with straws. So if you drink with a straw, it will bypass the ulcer, and it allows you to get your fluids in because you have to drink a lot of fluids right after chemo. You have to fluid up. So use a straw. Also, you may want to get a soft toothbrush because your gums become very sensitive after chemo. They'll bleed a lot. Your mouth and your teeth, everything just becomes very, very sensitive. So you don't even have to have ulcers. You may just want to get a soft toothbrush. The next thing is you may want to get toothpaste that is sensitive. So I think most people get biotin toothpaste, so you may want to get that. That's what I used. It doesn't have anything in it that will try to like bleach your teeth or ruin the enamel of your teeth, because chemo will ruin the enamel of your teeth and it can cause cavities. So you don't want to use any type of toothpaste that's going to add on to that. So you want to use something that's going to be very, very neutral. Next, brush your teeth after every single meal if you have ulcers. Ulcers do get worse with seasoning or any type of food that is acidic. So if the seasoning or the acid's just kind of sitting in your mouth from the food, it will make your ulcers a lot worse. So just go ahead and brush after every snack, after every meal. It will help those ulcers heal a lot quicker. Lastly, I didn't really have this problem, but if your white blood count gets low, you can get bacteria in your mouth, and it does become very, very, very painful. So a natural remedy for that I read in an oncology book is grapeseed extract. It comes in a pill. So you just want to break that pill, and it's going to be powder, and you just swish it in your mouth, and you can actually swallow it, and it is a natural remedy for killing bacteria if that becomes an issue for you. So that's all my tips and tricks for the mouth. But going into the stomach, I still had ulcers pretty much going all the way into my intestines. So you can actually get on ulcer medication. After my first round of chemo, I got on ulcer medication and stayed on it the entire time until I was done with chemo, and even 2 weeks after I was done with chemo. So ulcer medication can help a lot with those stomach ulcers, and you do not want to get stomach ulcers because you will be throwing everything up. Eat bland food. So I recommend this in general, even if stomach ulcers aren't an issue for you. As soon as you have chemo, that whole week after, you want to eat food that is very, very bland. That way it does not hurt your stomach or your intestines or anything like that, because you can develop ulcers. So just try to eat bland food. Also, stay away from acidic and spicy food. That will make your ulcers worse. Yogurt I use to calm down my stomach. Anything that's dairy, if you have stomach ulcers, anything that is dairy can actually calm your stomach down and allow you to get some kind of food or some kind of fluid in. Lastly, when it came to stomach ulcers, they are very, very painful, especially chemo stomach ulcers. I've gotten stomach ulcers in the past in college due to stress, but chemo stomach ulcers are a whole nother ball game. So you're going to want a heating pad, and I would just lay on my stomach on the heating pad, and it would make me feel a little bit better. It would make the pain go away just enough so I could eat or get fluids in that I needed to get in for that day. If you go to Amazon, they have an extra large heating pad for $30, and it has been a game changer. It will pretty much cover your entire back or all your legs or whatever. It's a really big heating pad, and it's awesome. Lastly, when it comes to the digestive system, what comes in must come out. So we're going to go there. We're going to talk about it because it can be a very, very painful side effect. We're going to talk about stools. So most people that are going through chemotherapy, there's two types of people. You're either going to have very hard stools or you're going to have diarrhea. So you may want to start, most people have hard stools. You may want to see what kind of person you are. If you start having hard stools, you may want to start to take a stool softener. And after your first round of chemo, you're going to know the type of person you are. You may want to even start that stool softener right before your next round, because chemo, it's like it doesn't matter how much you take, you're always going to have a really hard stool after chemo. So you may want to start taking it beforehand. Also, increasing your fiber is pretty much necessary when you go through chemo. So I took fiber gummies. I took like 3 or 4 a day. They have fiber brownies, fiber bars. Just try to increase that fiber, and that will help soften your stool. And it's also really just good for gut health overall. It's not just for softening up a stool, but it helps your entire digestive system, fiber. So you may want to just go ahead and increase that. And also drinking lots of fluids can help if you have a hard stool. Just to throw this out there, I didn't really take the side effects seriously, and a lot of people who don't take it seriously end up ripping their butthole, and once you do that, it will never heal through chemo. It will heal after chemo, and my doctor said there's really nothing you can do. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks. I've even seen people have to have surgery because it ripped so much, so please take this seriously. It's probably one of the most painful side effects that you can have if it gets out of hand or if it gets out of control. I've seen a lot of bad stories about this. So that covers that for the digestive system. My next issues were bone, muscle, and nerve pain. So for bone pain, this mainly comes from the Neulasta shot. There's other terms for it, but it's basically a shot or an injection to increase your white blood cells, because chemo will drop them very, very, very low. So I got Neulasta every single round except 1 round because my white blood cells were extremely high. So in order to help with this bone pain, you're going to want to take Claritin, and I took it every 12 hours. Some rounds, it's not going to work. Some rounds, it's just horrible, the bone pain. And even if you're not taking the shot to increase your white blood cells, chemo by itself will cause a lot of bone pain. So take Claritin. I always took it 24 hours before my Neulasta shot went off. So that will help that. Also with bone pain, if you increase your calcium, that can become a problem. Is low calcium can cause more bone pain. So if you increase it, it may be able to help you on those rounds that Claritin's not helping so much. So I would pair that up. I would pair Claritin up with 2 big glasses of milk every single morning, and once I found that good pairing, I didn't have bone pain anymore, or it was very, very minimum. So I recommend that. For muscle and nerve pain, you're going to want to do a heating pad, of course, and take hot salt baths. That helped me a lot, and just to kind of soak in hot water. But there's really nothing much that you can do for muscle and nerve pain. You just need to get rest. Of course, you can take pain pills. I even did CBD oil, but I will say this about CBD. There's absolutely no data to show that it helps with chemo side effects. I've heard great things from people saying that it helped them a lot, but for me personally, when it came to pain, I feel like it did not do a good job like pain medicine did. It helped a little bit in the pain department, but at the end of the day, when it comes to chemo, you're going to be in a lot of physical pain, and you probably just need a pain pill. CBD didn't really help me much in that department, but it did help me a lot in other departments that I'll talk about. So, for nausea or vomiting, eat small meals. You're going to want to snack, especially that first week after chemo. You're going to want to eat really bland snacks, and just try to keep food in your stomach, even if it's just a little bit, because as soon as your stomach's empty, it seems like that's when it gets a lot worse. So some of the snacks that I did were baby snacks, applesauce, yogurt, even the little baby puffs that you can just pop in your mouth and they dissolve. That's really good if you're feeling nauseous. And of course, there are so many medications. So if something is not working for you, there's hundreds out there right now to help chemo patients and their nausea. So that was not a main side effect for me. I probably took the medication maybe 2 days after chemo, and after that I didn't really feel sick in that way. I had pain in other places, but that wasn't a main side effect for me. And for this, if your appetite starts to decrease, CBD oil it did help me a lot here. It did help me keep an appetite, and it did help with the nausea. So you may want to try CBD oil for that. Hair, skin, and nails. So these guys are going to take a big, big hit. I lost my hair 14 days into chemotherapy. Your nails get very thin. It's almost like layers of it start to come off. So you're going to want to keep your nails very short. If you have long nails and it breaks off, it could break a good chunk of your nail off because it is so thin and fragile. So the entire time I kept my nails short. That way I didn't ruin them or anything. For skin and for hair, tea tree moisturizer. I've talked about this in several videos. It is the best moisturizer out there that I have found for skin, and you can even rub it into your scalp and your hair. There is a brightening face mask that I use. I think I have it saved on my Instagram, and I use clay mask as well because I think it was either after my 4th or my 5th round of chemo, I started getting blisters all on my forehead. And I would get a few right here, right on the side of my nose, and it wasn't a pimple. It was like these little bitty blisters. They didn't have pus or anything in them. It was like this clear stuff came out, and I was starting to wonder like if it was like the chemo coming out. I don't know, but I started developing blisters on my face, and that can be pretty common with chemo. It may not be on your face, but people do develop blisters. So clay mask helped me in that department. I also, before I lost my hair, I would wash it with a keratin shampoo and conditioner, and it did stay for a little while, and I even had some hairs that never left and continued to grow, and that's what I'm using right now. I'm using keratin shampoo and conditioner, and my hair is starting to come back. I'm also using a keratin and biotin pill. There is no data to show that this works because I've already asked my oncologist. So any type of pill that's out there to help your hair grow, there's nothing out there to show that it works or that's even proven that it's worked. So it's kind of scammy, and I know people who paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and honestly, it's probably not really making a difference. It's something that's just going to take time. I'm 4 weeks out, and my hair is slowly starting to come back. So that's it for hair, skin, and nails. Now going on to diet. So before you even start chemo, or if you're in the middle of chemo right now, you may want to meet with a nutritionist. I think every cancer center is probably going to have a nutritionist on board, so you may want to meet with them and just talk with them, ask them any questions. By the way, sugar does not make cancer grow. By the way, sugar does not cause cancer. So, just throwing that out there. Any nutritionist is going to tell you that. There is absolutely nothing out there that shows that sugar has anything to do with cancer at all. So meet with them. The main goal that you need to have is maintaining weight. So there's two people when it comes to chemotherapy. There's those who are going to lose weight, and there's those who are going to gain weight due to steroids. You may be one of the few lucky ones who are just able to maintain weight. I've only seen a few people be able to do this, but you usually fall into the two categories of losing weight or gaining weight. I am small, and I've always struggled with putting on weight. The only way I'm able to put on weight in general is by working out and building muscle. So I knew going into chemotherapy I was going to lose weight. So my goal was to maintain weight any way I could. And the way that I did this was basically the first week, at least the first week after chemotherapy, it was just losing weight. I couldn't get enough calories in, either due to not wanting to eat because of pain, being a little nauseous, whatever it was. I could not get enough calories in to even maintain my weight during that first week after chemo. So the next week was all about eating as much as I could that entire week. I ate healthy for the most part, but in order to reach the calories that you need to put the weight back on, because once you lose weight, you can't even maintain it. You have to gain it back. So in order to gain it back, you have to eat a lot of calories, and chemo just absorbs everything. It is so hard. Even if you eat a lot, it is so hard to put that weight back on, because I feel like the chemo just eats it all. So what I would do is that last week before my next round, I would almost like just store up before going into hibernation or whatever. So I just ate and ate and ate. I tried to eat healthy, but I did have to eat junk food in order to put the weight back on. So that was my main goal. I met with my nutritionist afterwards. I said, hey, this is what I'm doing because I'm struggling with keeping weight on. She said, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Also, with the diet, if you are someone who is losing weight, you want to eat food that is high calorie. So there are healthy food options that are high calorie if you don't want to do the junk food option. So you may want to try that. Also, if you're having issues in taking fluids, vegetables and fruit do carry water in them. So if water becomes an issue because it starts to taste like chemo, after I think probably like the third or fourth round for me, it started tasting like chemo. You may want to try like fruits and veggies and try to get that liquid in some other form. Anything that you eat during chemo, you will hate for the rest of your life. I ate Cheetos, and the thought of them makes me want to throw up. I ate them during chemo while the Red Devil was going in, which was a horrible idea. I highly recommend not eating at all during chemo. If you want to drink. But I even would ice my mouth in order to try to stop the ulcers, and even like the thought of ice, I couldn't do it the last 2 rounds because it made me just want to throw up. So anything that you eat, even ice, it will make you very, very nauseous. So that's it for diet. I highly recommend go and talk to a nutritionist. I am not a nutritionist. I'm just telling you what my game plan was during chemo. The next thing I want to talk about is exercise. So exercise during chemo, I recommend doing. And I recommend doing it afterwards, and you need to talk to your doctor about it beforehand, and you do need to do research on your chemo drugs. So some chemo drugs are toxic to the heart and lungs. So if that is the case, or that can be the case, you don't want to do anything that's high intensity or anything that's going to cause a high heart rate. You don't want to add stress to your heart and lungs if chemo's already adding stress to it. So you may just want to do like walking, lifting weights, anything that's going to be a lower heart rate, but make sure you talk to your doctor about it. And I did find that exercise throughout chemo helped with my mental health, number one, because when you exercise, a little chemical reaction goes off in your brain and it makes you happy. So it did help with my mental health. It did help with side effects. There are other little reactions that happen when you exercise that actually act as a natural pain reliever. I don't recommend going to work out if you're in a lot of pain though. So once your pain becomes manageable, if you go and work out, it can help with pain. For me, it did, and it made my ulcers actually start to heal a lot faster. So exercise is great. When it comes to after chemo, and when I mean after chemo, I mean your final round of chemo is completed and you're done with chemo. So when you're done with chemo, you may want to look into doing interval training. And for me, I'm 4 weeks out. I started doing CrossFit again at 2.5 weeks after my last chemo. And my chemo brain has drastically improved. My fatigue has drastically improved. My nerve pain has drastically improved. Those were the 3 main side effects that I was left with after chemo was completed. But I started doing this high intensity interval training, and this form of training is actually shown to be a little bit better in some studies because more oxygen, more blood, and more nutrients is going to the brain. So I think maybe it could help chemo brain. I'm not completely sure. I haven't looked into any data about that. I haven't even tried to find a study. I need to try to find a study to see if they've studied that. But that's, for me, it was just like a drastic decrease of chemo brain in like such a short period of time. And the only thing I'm doing differently is this high intensity interval training. I did weightlifting throughout chemo and I still had chemo brain and it still got pretty bad. But doing this high intensity stuff has really improved in that area. And I'm really curious to kind of look into it. So when it comes to exercise, yep, just talk to your doctor, see what you're allowed to do. If you have a PICC line or a port, you may have some restrictions. I had a PICC line, which means I couldn't do anything upper body at all, so I was only able to train legs. So get with your doctor on that. Rest. Rest is so important when you're going through chemo. The only way your body is going to recover is with rest and food. So getting rest is important, and steroids make it very hard to get rest. There were many sleepless nights where I couldn't sleep due to steroids. Even taking melatonin, it didn't really help. So I recommend talking again to your doctor about getting on melatonin or even doing CBD oil. This is the one area where I can say for me, CBD oil, this is where it was like it's time to shine. CBD oil helped with my sleep so much. It didn't matter how many steroids I was given. If I took CBD oil, I was going to sleep that night and I was going into a good bit of REM sleep and getting the rest that I needed. It even started making me become a little bit of a morning person because I would get in that deep sleep and stay in that deep sleep for so long. I started waking up at 8:30 just because I felt like I had enough rest from that night. So look into that. Again, talk to your doctor. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about mental health because cancer and chemotherapy drugs can cause depression. And maybe I'll talk more about this because I had another life trial that made me depressed for a few years. I might be in the process of writing a book. I don't know. Like, I started, but I don't know if I'm going to publish it. I don't know. But I basically start my book off with that first life trial, and maybe I'll do a video talking more about it. But depression is not a joke, and it's very serious, and there are a lot of cancer patients who do get depressed. For me, I never got depressed in this journey. I did get sad. I did cry a lot. I did feel hopeless at times. but I never got depressed. If you feel like if you're getting depressed, you need to talk to your doctor and you need to get on some medication. You need to go find a therapist to talk to, someone to talk to, something. You need to tell your doctor, because chemotherapy drugs can cause depression. But on your bad days, and you're going to go through bad days with chemotherapy even if you're not depressed, so I would have probably about 1 to 3 like really bad days where I physically couldn't get out of bed because I was either in a lot of pain, or I just didn't have the energy to get out of bed. It was like if I sat up, my heart just felt like it was beating out my chest and I was going to faint. So I would have about 1 to 3 days where I physically couldn't get out of bed, and that is mentally very taxing because it just feels like a lot of your independence is just being kind of like stripped away from chemo, and it becomes a lot. And on those days, I definitely cried. I definitely lost hope at times. But I had a great support system. I had great friends. My friends would come over a lot and just check on me. My husband was always here. My mom was always here. I would cry on the bad days and talk with them about what I was feeling and what I was going through. And I felt like that was really important on my mental health going through chemotherapy. Another thing is I'm going to put caution out there. There are people who are on social media who are going through cancer who post a lot of negative stuff. I was part of groups on Facebook that would post great information about like maybe how to deal with a side effect or just stuff like that. And they had great information, and I got a lot of my tips and tricks from people who have gone through this. But there are also people who got on that group and that social media, and they would tell others, your life will never be the same after cancer. You will never return to your old self. You'll never have a normal life again. Like, I could go on, and it just felt like they were telling me what I was not capable of doing once I was done with treatment. And they're liars. I'm just going to say it. They are liars, and you have to be careful because misery does love company, and I feel like some people may not be using their social media for good, and they post a lot of negative stuff on there, and just to be cautious of who you follow and what you are reading on social media. As soon as I even saw someone go into those conversations, I just kept scrolling, because at one point during chemotherapy I would read all this stuff, and it got so far in my head that it's like I could start feeling myself almost want to slip into a depression, because I would just cry and cry and cry. I lost hope. I felt sad because of what they were saying about me not being able to return to my normal old self, and they're lying. I'm 4 weeks out from chemotherapy. I'm doing CrossFit. I'm doing pull-ups. I'm doing stuff that I used to do again, and honestly, I feel so close to being like my old self again. Am I 100% my old self right now? No, I'm not. But every single day, I get closer and closer to being who I once was. And be careful. That is the one thing, is to just be careful of those people, because they can make the mental health as you're going through treatment a lot worse. And also, if you're using your social media, like I am, I'm sharing my journey with everyone. Just be careful of what you say. You know, tell others about the side effects you're going through and how you're struggling with it, but try not to take away someone's hope of saying what they can and can't do. I feel like that's kind of where you start to cross a line with negativity. If you are feeling that way, talk to someone in person about it. Go see a therapist. Talk to your doctor about this. This is something you should be talking to your doctor about. Ask your doctor, what is your next step? What are you returning to in life? Are you going to return to your old self? Are you going to have restrictions in life? Are there going to be things that you can no longer do? That is between you and your doctor, and only between you and your doctor. And if you want to share it with other people, that's fine. Share it with other people. But it is for you and your doctor to paint that picture of your future, and not someone on social media. And I made that mistake in my cancer journey, and I'm warning you now that there are negative people, and be very careful of who you follow and what you say. Sorry, I'm like really passionate about that, I guess, and like really emotional about it because of how it affected me and how I could just start to feel myself start to slip into like a depression and a hopelessness, and I don't want anyone to ever feel like that or to ever slip. So that's just my caution. And of course, on the bad days, figure out what you like to do. Do you like to journal? Do you like to write? Do you like to draw? Do you like to paint? Listen to music? Play the piano? Like, do something to keep your mind distracted, or even like doing puzzles, like whatever it is you want to do to get yourself through the bad days as you're just sitting in bed because you feel so bad. I honestly kind of just slept through them and journaled a lot or drew a lot, colored, whatever, to get me through, those 1 to 3 days that are just horrible through chemo. But that is all my tips and tricks. If you have any questions, always feel free to leave a comment. I will try to answer any questions that you have. And if you like these videos, feel free to subscribe. If you're following my cancer journey or my clinical trial journey and you want to continue to follow it, and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. But thank you guys.